And joining me now is Republican Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma. Senator Lankford, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you. Good Sunday morning to you.
Good Sunday morning to you. Thank you for being here. Let's start right there with President Trump's decision to deploy the National Guard, 2,000 troops. He says it is the first time that a president will have deployed the National Guard without a governor's sign-off since 1965. How do you respond to Governor Newsom, who says that this move will only escalate tensions?
Yeah, I think what President Trump's trying to do is pretty clear. He's trying to de-escalate all the tensions that are there. We're watching as Americans scenes of burning cars in intersections and people waving American flags at local law enforcement, concrete blocks being thrown at federal law enforcement. We watched this kind of scene 5-6 years ago when there was a takeover in the Northwest. Around Seattle and Portland, when we watched all that happen and local law enforcement was being challenged over and over again, it finally took a National Guard presence to be able to bring it down after weeks. What President Trump is trying to do is say, this is not going to take weeks this time. We're not going to allow this to be able to spiral out of control. This is an American city. And to be able to have an American city where we have people literally flying Mexican flags and saying, you cannot arrest us, cannot be allowed. If someone violates the law, no matter what state that they're in violation of a federal law, they should face consequences for that.
Well, you know, Senator, Governor Newsom says there is no unmet law enforcement need. The LAPD says the protests were peaceful. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth now warning active duty Marines could be mobilized. Would you support mobilizing the Marines? And do you think Congress would need to sign off on that first?
Yeah, well, active duty Marines are not going to be put into local law enforcement. They would be in support roles on it, as we have in the border. We have active duty military at the border, but they're not doing law enforcement tasks. They're doing logistical tasks behind the scenes. Local law enforcement should take care of this. But again, when you're seeing burning cars and federal law enforcement being attacked on the streets and with thousands of LAPD, which, by the way, do a great job. The LAPD has a great task in front of them, and they're meeting that task with a great opportunity to be able to actually enforce the law. But it's clear that they're being overwhelmed, and as the protests rise, we want to make sure those protests actually don't spiral out of control. Again, this wouldn't be an issue if California didn't promote sanctuary city policies to be able to tell people literally you can violate federal law and live in our state, and no one will arrest you for this. Now suddenly when they are arrested for federal crimes, then suddenly they go into this kind of protest saying, no, you can't arrest us here. We're immune from federal law. That's not true.